A federal judge has ruled that the Trump regime unlawfully deployed thousands of National Guard troops to Los Angeles earlier this summer in response to protests over immigration enforcement, calling the move a willful violation of federal law. The decision, issued Tuesday by U.S. District Judge Charles Breyer in San Francisco, strikes at the heart of Donald Trump's sweeping use of military forces on domestic soil and raises broader concerns about executive overreach. Turning U.S. troops against civilians poses a profound danger both to democracy and civil society. The U.S. military is trained and equipped for warfare, not for community policing or maintaining civil order, and using soldiers in that role risks escalating tensions rather than calming them. It undermines the principle of civilian law enforcement, which is built on accountability, restraint, and respect for constitutional rights. Historically, democracies that blur the line between military power and civilian life risk sliding toward authoritarianism. As the armed forces become instruments of political control rather than national defense, deploying troops against citizens erodes public trust, creates fear instead of safety, and threatens the constitutional balance that prevents the government from using overwhelming military force to silence dissent. In his 52-page opinion, Breyer found that the administration went far beyond its legal authority when it sent Guard troops to assist federal immigration raids and maintain order, supposedly on city streets. He noted that Trump and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth had publicly signaled interest in extending similar deployments to cities such as Oakland, San Francisco, Chicago, Baltimore, and New York. Plans, Breyer warned, suggested the creation of a national police force with the president as its chief. Although the judge stopped short of immediately ordering the withdrawal of the roughly 300 remaining soldiers in Los Angeles, he barred them from engaging in a broad range of law enforcement actions, including making arrests, conducting searches, setting up perimeters, or gathering evidence. His order, limited to California, will take effect September 12th, unless overturned on appeal. The White House quickly condemned the ruling. Anna Kelly dismissed Breyer as a rogue judge, trying to usurp the authority of the commander-in-chief, insisting that Trump had acted within his powers to protect American cities from violence and destruction, neither of which were happening in Los Angeles. When pressed on this issue at a news conference today, Donald Trump deflected from the question, twisting the answer to suit his own propaganda.
Well, it was a radical left judge, but very importantly, what did you not tell me in that question or statement that you made? Pretty much of a statement, I think.
Well, I was asking for your response.
No, you didn't say what the judge said, though. The judge said, but you can leave the 300 people that you already have in place. They can continue to be in place. That's all we need. But why didn't you put that as part of your statement? Because the same judge ruled exactly as you said, except the judge said that you can leave the 300 people that you already have in place. They can stay, they can remain, they can do what they have to do.
The ruling stemmed from a lawsuit filed by California back in June, which argued that Trump's actions violated the Posse Comitatus Act of 1878. That law, designed to limit the domestic use of the military, prohibits federal troops from enforcing civilian law unless expressly authorized by Congress. California Governor Gavin Newsom hailed the judgment as a win for state sovereignty and constitutional limits on presidential power. No president is a king, not even Trump, Newsom said, and no president can trample a state's power to protect its people. On social media, he punctuated the point more sharply. In all caps, Donald Trump loses again. The courts agree. His militarization of our streets is illegal. Trump's decision to deploy military forces onto U.S. city streets are already having significant repercussions for tourism, an industry that relies heavily on perceptions of safety and freedom. Images of armored vehicles, soldiers in combat gear, and clashes between troops and protesters project instability to the outside world, making destinations like Los Angeles, Chicago, or Washington, D.C. appear less welcoming to visitors. International travelers in particular may associate the militarization of public spaces with countries in political crisis rather than with the United States as a democratic and open society. Lawyers for the Trump regime countered that the Posse Comitatus Act did not apply in this case, since the Guard was deployed to protect federal personnel and facilities rather than to enforce laws directly. They argued that Trump invoked his authority under Title 10 of the U.S. Code, which allows the president to federalize state Guard units in limited circumstances, such as invasions, rebellions, or when federal law cannot otherwise be enforced. Breyer rejected that rationale, concluding that the administration knowingly ordered soldiers to carry out prohibited activities. He cited evidence that Guard members, often clad in armor and operating military vehicles, set up roadblocks, conducted crowd control, and created what amounted to a show of force in Los Angeles. Testimony from Major General Scott Sherman, who initially oversaw the troops, revealed that he had raised concerns about possible violations of the Posse Comitatus Act. Soldiers, Sherman said, were even given training materials listing prohibited actions, yet were directed to perform some of them anyway. The deployment marked the first time in decades that a president had federalized a state's National Guard without the request of the governor. Trump's decision followed mild skirmishes between demonstrators and federal immigration agents in Los Angeles. Several dozen protesters had blocked a freeway and torched vehicles, prompting aggressive law enforcement responses that included rubber bullets and tear gas. But Trump's response went beyond the call of duty, ordering around 4,000 National Guard members and 700 Marines to the city. Troops were visible patrolling areas such as MacArthur Park, while others joined federal immigration officers on raids at marijuana nurseries in Ventura County. Whilst past presidents have invoked emergency powers to deploy Guard forces, such as during the 1992 Rodney King riots, the key difference is those actions were taken at the request of state leaders. Retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Maurer, now a law professor, described Trump's move as the most aggressive use of the military domestically when the facts to support them are extremely weak. He suggested the ruling could become a roadmap for other states resisting similar federal deployments. The legal battle in California comes as Trump has increasingly leaned on military force to advance his domestic agenda. He recently sent Guard troops to Washington, D.C. after declaring a crime emergency in the capital. In that case, Trump had direct legal authority because the D.C. Guard reports to the president. He also expanded militarized operations along the U.S.-Mexico border. Trump has hinted that Chicago could be next. "We're going in," he said to reporters, though he declined to specify when. Democratic leaders in Illinois, including Governor J.B. Pritzker and Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, vowed to sue if he follows through. They stressed that violent crime has declined in the city and argued federal militarization would only undermine public confidence. The regime's escalating reliance on the military for domestic enforcement has alarmed civil liberties advocates and raised fears about a full-on authoritarian dictatorship. Gavin Newsom called Trump's actions an unmistakable step towards authoritarianism, while critics across the country have warned that using federal troops against American citizens risks normalizing military involvement in civilian life. Despite those warnings, Trump has shown little sign of backing down. The White House maintains that the president has both the obligation and the authority to ensure public safety, especially in Democratic-led cities he claims have failed to maintain order, especially in Democratic-led sanctuary cities that he falsely claims have failed to maintain order. This isn't a political thing, Trump insisted. I have an obligation. For now, Breyer's ruling applies only to California, but it sets a legal precedent that could shape battles in other states. By explicitly barring Guard members from law enforcement tasks, such as searches, seizures, and interrogations, the judge reaffirmed limits on presidential power. California officials have already moved to block any extension of the Los Angeles deployment through the November election, arguing the administration never had justification to send troops in the first place. As the Trump regime appeals the decision, it remains to be seen whether higher courts will uphold Breyer's decision. But the clash highlights a fundamental question for American democracy, where the line is drawn between legitimate federal authority and the constitutional limits designed to prevent military rule at home. Over time, the normalization of military patrols in urban centers could tarnish the US's global reputation as a place of freedom and openness, with tourism serving as one of the first industries to feel the economic sting of the militarization of Trump's America. I'm Anthony Davis. You can find me on the 5 Minute News YouTube channel and podcast, on Wednesdays co-hosting Uncovered, and on Sunday on The Weekend Show with MeidasTouch.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.